When an officer gets shot, everybody shows up. When the same officer asks for help later, the room gets quiet. That's not a coincidence. And if you're a veteran first responder watching this, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. There's something about the profession, about military service, law enforcement, other first responder cultures, and it trains you to survive the moment, but it doesn't teach you what to do with the aftermath. We're really good at saying that we're fine when we're not. Not because we're trying to lie to people, but because we're conditioned to survive that way. From day one, we're taught, keep it together, control your emotions, handle the chaos, move to the next call, move to the next mission, and don't let things rattle you. And that skill keeps people alive. It keeps your partners alive. It keeps civilians alive. It keeps you alive in the moment. But it doesn't turn off when your shift ends. It follows you home. Nobody teaches you how to turn it off. This topic is personal for me. My father was a chief of police in Cape Back, Michigan. In 2008, he was shot in the line of duty. He almost died. He spent months in the hospital. I watched what visible trauma looks like. I watched the community rally. I watched officers stand guard. I watched people bring food, prayers, and support. And that support mattered. There was no hesitation, no awkwardness, no doubt that he deserved that help. He was injured and people showed up. And that's how it should be. But what I didn't understand back then was how differently invisible injuries would be treated. In 2012, I myself was involved in a fatal shooting. It was an ambush-style attack. The suspect unloaded 60 rounds on me and two of my coworkers. That's right, 60. You don't really process that number when it's happening. You just react. You survive. You do what you're trained to do. What most people don't know is that during that incident, I also suffered a traumatic brain injury. And when it was over, when the reports were written and the scene was cleared, the adrenaline dropped, I did what everyone else does. I sat in front of the department shrink, and I said I was good, because that's what we say as first responders. And within a few days, I was back to work. Nobody slowed it down. Nobody questioned it. Nobody said, let's take a closer look at this. The workers' comp doctors didn't even order a CT scan or an MRI for nearly a month. A month. They didn't send me to a specialist until I lawyered up. And even then, it felt like I was fighting just to be taken seriously. But here's the thing. At the time, I didn't push that hard, because pushing back makes you look weak. Pushing back makes you look like you can't handle it. Pushing back makes you look like a problem. So instead, you just handle things. You show up. You keep moving. In my shooting incident, two of my fellow officers were shot. Both survived. Another officer was stabbed, all by the same individual. This individual never saw another sunset. Those incidents were visible. They were dramatic. They were easy for people to rally around. And again, that support mattered. But what followed for many of us wasn't healing. It was silence. Because once the headlines faded, the ceremonies were over, you're left with your own head. And that's where the real battle starts. I went back to work. I put my uniform on. I answered calls. I wrote reports. From the outside, everything looked normal. But inside, something was off. I wasn't really back. I was physically present, but emotionally gone. At work, I was an empty suit. At home, I was distant, short-tempered, disconnected. My wife felt it. My kids felt it. I almost lost them because of it. That's the part that people don't see. They see you functioning, they see you performing, they assume that you're okay. They don't see the erosion happening underneath. You don't even fully see it yourself at first. You just feel numb or angry or restless, exhausted in a way that sleep just doesn't fix. And because everyone else thinks you're fine, you convince yourself that you must be, until the cracks get too big to ignore. At some point, I realized I wasn't just off, I was unraveling. Not in some dramatic movie scene way. It was quietly, it was slow. The kind of unraveling where you still show up to work, you still pay the bills, you still go to family events, but you're not really there. You're on the edge for no clear reason. You're numb when you shouldn't be. You're angry when you don't understand why. And the people that you love and who love you the most are the ones that are absorbing it. That's the part that finally broke me. Not the shooting, not the reports, not the internal investigation, my family. I could see it in my wife's eyes. I could feel the distance growing. And I had a choice to make. Fight for the badge or fight for my family. I chose my family. And that meant doing the one thing this culture quietly punishes. I asked for help. I went to my department and I said that I wasn't okay. And what happened next is the part people don't like to talk about. It wasn't relief. It wasn't support. It wasn't, we're glad that you spoke up. It was isolation. It was subtle at first. Conversations changed. The tone shifted. Supervisors looked at me differently. Then it wasn't subtle anymore. Opportunities dried up. Pressure increased. The message became clear without anyone ever saying it out loud that you are now a liability. You are now a problem. You are no longer the dependable one. You're the one that we have to worry about. And when that message sinks in, it does something to you. Because now you're not just fighting what's happening inside your head. You're fighting to keep your identity, your reputation, and your career. And this is why so many veterans and first responders, police officers, they stay silent. It's not because they don't want the help. It's because they've seen what happens when others have asked for it. In therapy, I came to the hard truth. Getting out of police work wasn't quitting. It wasn't weakness. It was survival. I had to step away from the very thing that had shaped my identity in order to heal. That's not something that we're trained to do. We're trained to endure, to outlast, to push through, not to step back, but stepping back is what saved my family, saved my marriage, saved me. And even after I made this decision, even after I left, the guilt didn't just disappear, because in this community, you don't just leave a job, you leave a tribe. You leave a version of yourself, and you carry that with you. There's something else that I need to say. And before you think you know who this may be, for those of you that know me, just know that from my military service, I have friends all over the country, and a lot of them are police officers. But I had a friend. He was also involved in a fatal shooting. Different incident, different scene. Similar weight. We talked about it. We talked about what happens after. We talked about how departments treat you once you admit that you're struggling. And at one point, he told me something that I'll never forget. After hearing about how my department treated me when I asked for help, he said that he would never tell anyone at work what he was going through. Never. He saw the cost. He saw the isolation. He saw the shift in how I was treated. And he decided silence was safer. Think about that. He chose silence over support because silence felt less dangerous. We stayed in touch for a while, then life moved on. I left law enforcement. We lost contact. He ended up self-medicating and overdosed and died. And when I got that news, my first reaction wasn't anger. It wasn't outrage. It was guilt. I should have checked in more. I should have reached out. I should have pushed harder. But here's what I've had to come to terms with. This isn't about just one conversation. This isn't about one friend. This is about a culture that isolates people when they're already drowning. If asking for help gets you treated like a liability, speaking up costs you your reputation, if vulnerability threatens your career, people will stay silent. And silence kills. There's a double standard in this profession that we don't like to admit. When someone is shot, everybody shows up. When somebody is physically injured, support is immediate. There are fundraisers, there's hospital visits, there's handshakes and speeches. And that's good, it should be that way. But when somebody says that I'm not okay, the room gets quiet. Supervisors, they don't know what to say. Coworkers, they keep their distance. People start watching you differently. Like you're fragile, like you're unstable. Like you might be the next problem. And that shift, that subtle social shift is devastating. Because now the injury isn't just inside your head. It's how you're treated. One injury earns support, the other earns suspicion. One gets you labeled a hero. The other quietly puts you on an island. And when somebody overdoses, when somebody takes their life, when someone spirals, everyone says the same thing. I had no idea. But here's the hard truth. In this world, not knowing is often by design. We are masters of hiding it, We joke about it. We minimize it. We change the subject. We say we're fine. We convince people. We convince ourselves. Because admitting that we're not fine feels more dangerous than staying quiet. That's the part civilians don't understand. It's not just pride. It's not ego. It's conditioning. It's fear of consequence. It's knowing that the moment you say you're struggling, your identity shifts in the eyes of people that you respect. So you stay silent. You self-medicate. You drink more than you should. You numb it out. You disconnect. And from the outside, you still look like you're functioning. You still show up. You still perform. Until one day you don't. And people are shocked. They shouldn't be. This isn't about blaming departments. It's about acknowledging the culture. Policy can say that we support mental health, but culture decides whether people feel safe using that support. And in too many places, culture still says, handle it. Don't be weak. Don't be the problem. Push through. And pushing through works until it doesn't. If you're a veteran or first responder watching this and you're struggling, I want you to hear something clearly. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not alone in this, even if it feels that way. The strength that it takes to walk into chaos for other people is the same strength it takes to admit that you need help. Those are not opposites. They're connected. And if you love a veteran or a first responder, hear this too. Do not take "I'm fine" at face value. That doesn't mean interrogate them. It doesn't mean panic. It means to check in again later and then again. And don't disappear when it gets uncomfortable. Sometimes when somebody pushes you away, it's not rejection. It's a test. They're waiting to see if you stay. I'm sharing this because silence is killing people that I care about. It almost cost me my family. It cost me friends. And it continues to cost this community more than we admit. We don't get better by pretending this isn't happening. My dog Kobe snoring up a storm. I apologize. We don't get better by pretending this isn't happening. We don't get better by burying it in dark humor. We get better by telling the truth, by standing next to each other when it's hard. By treating invisible injuries with the same seriousness as the visible ones. If you're struggling, don't sit with it alone. Call somebody. Text somebody. If you're in the U.S., you can call or text 988 anytime. And if you ever want to talk to somebody who's walked through this, not a therapist, not an expert, not somebody at your department that's going to spread rumors, just someone who's been there, you can call or text me. No agenda, no pitch, just conversation. You matter more than the uniform. You matter more than the badge. You matter more than the job. And staying silent shouldn't be the price of being strong.